We are at that time when it's time to welcome everybody. Welcome everybody to our podcast. I'm Mike DeLuca. I am your host. This is the Integrative Wellness and Development Podcast. Very grateful that you're all here. We have many people also joining us on Facebook right now, and we'll be popping in over the course of tonight's talk and interview. So with that, I'm going to jump right in and tell you this podcast is brought to you by my company, Integrative Wellness and Development. It is not affiliated with any other organization. It is not sponsored by any other organization or entity. It's all me. And most importantly, it's the wonderful guests that I have who bring a great deal of information, wisdom, love, light, and tools for you to have a better life. That's what this show is about. It's about wellness. It's about personal development. And very grateful that you're here, and very grateful for my special guest, Meg Lamm. I am going to welcome you. Welcome, Meg. Welcome to the show. Very
Thank
happy
you.
you're here.
I am also very happy to be here.
Awesome. Well, I'm going to pop up our PowerPoint and tell you all out there on Facebook and joining us later a little bit about Meg, and I will try not to embarrass her too much. But Meg has spent over 24 years in the wellness industry. She is a certified integrative mind-body coach, clinical hypnotherapist, neuro-linguistic programming practitioner, HMT practitioner, and licensed body worker in the state of Illinois. Meg is passionate about helping individuals and couples discover and resolve the patterns that keep them stuck so they can create relationships that feel supportive and true to who they are. Whether that means staying together and building something stronger, or choosing to leave with clarity, or simply no longer tolerating what's not working, she helps her clients to discover what's missing, define what they truly want, and communicate with confidence. And that's what we are going to be talking about tonight, and that is all of those things, and especially communicating with confidence. So again, welcome, Meg, and let's jump right into my first question, and that is listening. Okay. There's a big difference between listening and hearing, and then a big difference between hearing, understanding, and acknowledging. Can you talk a little bit about what stands in the way of us really hearing what the other person is really saying and really wants and needs in a conversation?
So most oftentimes it is this need to prove something about ourselves. Like we can't actually experience their point and our point as both being valid in the same time. So you may experience something during a conversation, or let's use something outside of relationship. Let's just say a movie, right? Now you're watching a movie and I'm watching the same movie. And you're like, how about that theme song? And I'm like, I didn't even hear that theme song. And it was going on and it was very real and alive and active for you. But for me, I was just like, that really, I didn't hear that so much. I didn't really pay that much attention to that. It wasn't an issue for me. It wasn't important to me. But that doesn't mean that I invalidate your point of view. I'm not like, oh God, you're nuts. What do you mean the theme song? Who cares about the theme song? Like that's silly. That's stupid. Right? Imagine how someone feels when that's the response. I'm like, oh, whoa. Immediate walls and protection and defensiveness. So when that's the initial response of me to you, like, What do you mean? You're exaggerating. You're overdoing it. You're melodramatic. Well, now there's a wall between us, and now I feel the need to defend myself, so I can't hear what you're going to say either. Does that make sense?
It makes a lot of sense, and it's sometimes so subtle
Mm-hmm.
we don't understand what's happening. And could you talk? I mean, we're seeing it in the world right now.
Mm-hmm.
There seems to be such a prevalence of trying to separate us, from each other. And if you don't believe the way I believe, or you don't support what I support, you're wrong. Or worse, you're my enemy.
Yes.
And we see that on the world scale, countries and all of that stuff, but there are wars that go on in our own homes and our own offices
Mm-hmm.
where people have allowed themselves to become separated from each other
Mm-hmm.
and become defensive and aggressive,
Mm-hmm.
um, because either they're not hearing and respecting what the other person is saying and thinking, or something's going on inside of them that they don't even maybe consciously understand. And that's what I want to ask you about next, because
Mm-hmm.
that's a little more subtle.
Mm-hmm.
So, what are the things that go on inside that can create this kind of thing that are, subconscious?
It's typically there's something inside of me that has been triggered by what's going on in the external world, right? So, like either something you said, or something I saw, or something I heard on the radio. And I allow this, there's an imprint in us, an actual energetic imprint that lives inside of us that was created long ago in childhood, maybe even in a past life, right? Um, but if we allow that to be the thing that we respond to, so let's say you say something to me and that trigger, as we commonly refer to them, has been activated. Now I'm pulling that energy forward into this current experience. And that's what I'm actually responding to instead of responding to what's actually going on here between us. So I am like my frontal cortex, which is the part of our brain that allows us to come up with solutions and ideas and how to move forward, that goes offline because now I'm in fight or flight. Now I'm in like, oh my gosh, there's a huge problem to solve. And you are my enemy, right? Because you have triggered this fear in me. If I don't know that that's what's going on and I allow myself to respond to this energetic imprint that's been activated, that's where I'm going to stay. I'm going to stay right there in that space. I cannot see clearly what's happening in the present moment.
A very wise man just asked this question.
Mm-hmm.
How do you get the patience to listen and accept the other person's viewpoint? It's not
Mm,
easy to do in the moment. And I'm not speaking for men all over the world here, but being in a male body, I tend to be very impatient to solve the problem,
mm-hmm.
right? Or see problems when they're not problems to be solved. They are simply a need to listen and understand.
Mm-hmm.
So how do we develop the patience to override that program that causes us to either be defensive, try to solve a problem that doesn't exist, and stop competing or feeling like we have to compete with the other person?
Well, sorry, I gotta get my little cat out of the way
That's all right. There's
with
two
my
puppies.
headphones.
There's two puppies watching the
There
show
she
in our
goes.
house.
Okay, so what I've found with lots of my clients is that when they feel the need to fix the problem, it's that they're basing their value on their ability to be useful, right? To feel like that is a very typical male response, but also as a parent, right? Like I
Right.
experience the same thing as a parent. Like I just want to come in and fix and like, but I'm not even sure what that person needs. I'm like assuming all over the place that it's even a problem. Maybe they're just venting. Maybe they're just. So, one thing that works always in the moment, and it's easy to do, is just ask the person what they want from you. Like, what do you need from me right now? Do you want me to give you my opinion? Do you want me just to listen? Do you want some suggestions? Right? It's so simple and so straightforward, and it works because it makes the person also reflect, well, yeah, what actually do I want right now? Like, why is this a problem for me? And so it works very nicely for both people involved.
That's my next question. And that is, let's flip the script for a minute. And that is, how do we communicate what we need or want in a situation clearly so
Mm-hmm.
that the other person understands what it is we want or need? And are there also these little inner programs going on that interfere with that ability to communicate clearly?
That is the number one thing that interferes with the ability to communicate clearly. I actually just did a podcast on this last week, not this current week, but the week prior, about how I'm projecting what that person is going to think about
Ah,
what I say or do before I even bring it up. You know, like I'm I'm thinking he's not going to like that. He'll think I'm weird. Maybe they'll be mad at me. Maybe someone won't talk to me anymore, you know? And that then becomes the problem I'm trying to solve instead of solving, hey, how can I let this person know how I'm feeling? How can I actually express myself clearly and concisely? How can I be as honest and as possible? How can I invite this person more deeply into my world? Because that's what, I mean, most people that I work with, and I'm sure most people that are listening and are here, that's what they want, is to have a relationship that's built on a conscious creation, right? Like something next level, not something that we're living as a result of what someone else taught us or basing on the Hallmark movie, concepts, or, you know, they want to take their relationship beyond what they've already known. They know there's something more. So that to me requires an invitation into something that we haven't had yet. So, how can I invite you to know me more deeply? And what am I willing to do to know you on that same level? Does that answer that question about what's in the way?
yeah, yeah, and it brings up the need to be able to do that without fear, right, of how the other person is going to react.
Mm-hmm.
Also, to do it without anger.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, anticipating a problem and already
Mm-hmm.
having, your anti-missile defense systems and artillery and, snipers on the roof and ready,
Mm-hmm.
ready for battle. How can we disarm that so that it is a neutral, equal communication, because that can be just as destructive as the person who is defensive listening and is already thinking about how they're going to, counterpunch you and
Yes.
take you down, right?
Yes, precisely. That's a great question. And it's wonderful to come to a place of awareness before you even bring up the issue or bring up the conversation. Because what you're talking about with fear and anger and defensiveness, if you haven't even begun the conversation yet and you're already noticing that you feel those things, that is coming from a past experience. And then you're bringing that past experience into this current situation. And that, like, then of course you feel the need to defend, right? Like, if I feel fearful, notice the story that's going along with that. Notice the story that you're telling yourself. I feel fearful because, like, check it, asking yourself because and leaving it open ended and allowing things to just bubble up will really, like, I feel fearful because they're going to not like me. Where has that happened before in my life? Oh, mm, with my ex-wife, with my fifth grade teacher, you know. So all of that we're kind of bringing into this current experience, but it's now irrelevant. But we're giving it so much power, you know, we're giving all of those things so much power that we aren't able to just come here. So the stories around what we're telling ourselves, were the stories we have that are feeding the fear and anger will really point to where it's where we can move into something now as opposed to something that happened in the past.
You're bringing up some points that some years ago, some very wise people who were mentors to me were teaching me about negotiation.
Mhm.
And business is simply a set of relationships that may have some financial, repercussions, but in the end, it's all about communication and it's all about relationships. And the thing that they were stressing to me was you do not need to go into a negotiation where you are trying to win and the other person has to lose.
Mhm.
Number one. Number two, you do not go into a negotiation and right away demand what it is that you want.
Right.
The way to go into a negotiation properly, because a negotiation, if successful, turns into a relationship. And
Mhm.
hopefully it's a long-term, mutually beneficial relationship. So what they taught me was when you go into a negotiation, the first thing you want to do is ask them, so can you help me understand what
Mhm.
it is that you need
Mhm.
out of this negotiation? That was very different because when I went into it originally, it was like, here's what I want, right? And here's what I have to offer in exchange for what I want, right? Um, but this was a whole different paradigm. And it's what I'm hearing you say, and that is take a breath for a moment, understand clearly what is it that I need from this communication or this negotiation, right? And then to understand before it gets into a confrontation or I need to win this and you need to lose that.
Mhm.
Stop and understand what is it that they need first, right? And then have them explain to you why they need that.
Mhm.
That was revolutionary for me because once I understood they were coming into this negotiation because they needed this particular thing for their business to be more successful or to survive, or they needed particular assets or resources they didn't have that I had access to, right? And then the next thing was for me to help them understand, well, here's what I need, and then here's what I'm willing and capable of accepting. Can we come to middle ground
Mhm.
respectfully
Mhm.
in a win-win situation? And
Mhm.
that's what one of the things I got out of that was every negotiation should end in a win-win, right?
Absolutely.
So translating that into what you're talking about, right? Um, in our relationships, how do we have the patience and how do we have the understanding and the maturity to do that, to sit down and either A, come to an agreement that's a win-win,
Mhm.
right? How do we do that? And then my next question is, what happens if we can't?
Mhm.
Relationship.
So I find this to be a very important part of relationships, and it requires a willingness, as you said, I held my finger up when you said that word, because there has to be a certain level of willingness in relationship to be vulnerable and to be completely honest. And both of those are very scary because we have a fear of being rejected. So that's a lot of what's coming into it, even before we begin the discussion, right? But as a win-win, like, what would be the benefit? I love to ask people this just right off the bat, like, what would be the benefit of doing it differently? What would be valuable, the value to you of doing it differently? Like, what would you get? Kind of like what you're saying, right? Like, what do you need out of this? What are you hoping will happen if you do it differently? So, the win-win is that it's not necessarily that I have my way or that you have your way. And it's definitely not proving somebody wrong. For
Yes.
me, because that is always a lose. Proving
Yeah.
someone wrong means that person is going to shut down. They're going to shut down from me. They're not going to really trust me anymore, right? They're going to be like, I can't come to you with anything because you're just going to tell me how bad and wrong I am. So the value for me, the benefit to me of doing it differently is to create more safety, like a bigger, more, yeah, I guess like a safer container, right? A place where someone can come to me with their problems, being truly authentic. Because if I don't invite that, how can I ever have an intimate relationship? And by that, I mean close relationship with anyone if I'm not willing to just hear who they are and what they want before I tell them that they're wrong and push them away. Right. So, in the win win, for me, winning is we're both being honest and vulnerable with each other, even if it means we disagree. Like, yeah, you can like that and I don't have to. You can eat that and I don't have to like it. You can want that. But then we have the ability to choose. And this is how we know we're in an honest relationship with someone. And that is, I can choose to, yes, that is going to work with me. Yes, I will go along with this, or I'm not going to participate in that part of the relationship with you. I support you if that's what you want to pursue, but it doesn't mean that I have to want to pursue it myself either. Or also, does that make sense?
Yeah, it does make sense. Another question that comes up is how do you deal with the aggression of the other person who has to be right and you have to be wrong?
It's very hard. It's very hard. And that's where coming to the place of confidence prior to even like knowing that that's a possibility ahead of time and knowing how you will handle that internally ahead of time, not basing your um, value, your worth, not needing their validation in order to feel good about yourself or in order to know it's okay to have what you want. Because a lot of times that's typically what's going on is we're needing that external validation in order to feel like, yeah, it's fine. Oh, good. Oh, you like it? Oh, whew. Load off then, like I can relax about it. Like we're looking to that person to provide us with that relief, so to speak, like, oh, thank goodness. But if I can develop that for me first, and I know how that person behaves, then I don't need the you or my partner or my kids or my mom to have any certain kind of response. So it requires a great deal of internal presence, centeredness, and looking at like what brings up the fear or the reaction when the person is going to like be angry or yelling or aggressive, as you had said.
Yeah. Well, this, we're talking about strategies here, and we're talking about ways of dealing with these situations. But this isn't magic that instantly happens, and it points to the value of working with somebody who can help you move through learning how to be self-aware, number
Mm-hmm.
one. Number two, learn tools that
Mm-hmm.
you can use
Mm-hmm.
to help navigate through these situations. And then number three, practice in a safe environment so that you're comfortable and confident. And that's for me as a retired coach, that's the value of working with someone who understands as a coach how to help somebody walk through the rooms to
Mm-hmm.
get to where they are comfortable doing what they need to do and being themselves in these situations. And you are going to be having this Saturday, correct, May 10th?
Yes, May 10th. Mm-hmm.
May
Mm-hmm.
10th, you're going to be having, let me share a little graphic here. Um, May 10th, you're going to be having a workshop with Kim Gilroy,
Yes, Kim Guillory. Mm-hmm.
Guillory, and it's about have it all. Um, and here you are saying that you can have it all. You can have a relationship with a special someone that is more exciting than draining. Okay, raise your hand if you've ever had the latter versus the exciting one in your past. Um, Raise your hand if you would like to have a relationship with money that is financially and emotionally liberating, right? Raise your hand if you'd like to have a relationship with your body that is self-loving and not self-loathing,
Mm-hmm.
right? So all
Mm-hmm.
of this is going to be covered in this amazing workshop.
Mm-hmm.
And for more information, folks, if you go to https colon backslash events dot Kim Guillory backslash have dash it dash all. And we'll put that in the chat as well. So that is this Saturday, May 10th. And very, very valuable information is going to be shared there with Meg and Kim. And let's get back to Meg as a coach.
Mm-hmm.
What is it that you do to help a client be more vulnerable,
Mm-hmm.
be more patient,
Mm-hmm.
be more self-aware?
Mm-hmm.
Because you have to have that
Mm-hmm.
self-awareness, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And be courageous and confident
Mm-hmm.
to ask for what you want, but still not navigate into a war zone, but be
Mm-hmm.
able
Mm-hmm.
to be mature and have the other person be mature as well. So as a coach,
Yeah,
do, and you have, I read earlier biography, you have a giant toolbox of tools and
I do.
experience that you have
I
to
do.
bring to the table that is quite a bit richer than the average coach. So talk a
Can
little
I
bit.
can I touch back real quick on the last question too about like when people are being aggressive because I I didn't say this initially, but I do think it's something very important and that I teach many of my clients, especially um, people that find themselves to have codependent tendencies, and that is setting boundaries with people. And boundaries are not a way, I think they're misunderstood. They're not a way that we control someone else. So I'm not like, you better stop being aggressive or I'm going to, tell you what I'm going to do to you. It's more how I care for and respect myself so that I have a plan for what I do when something happens that I don't like or I don't want to be going the way that, or it's not going the way that I want it to be going. I have got to set a very clear boundary for myself ahead of time. That means, and I express it to someone. So that's part of the coaching that I do. But like when you do that, or if this continues to happen, I'm going to do Y, right? When X happens, I'm going to do Y. I'm just going to be very clear with you about it. And like, especially with kids or even friends or parents, when things have been going on for a long time in a certain way, and there's been a dynamic that's been happening for a very long time, and then all of a sudden we decide we're going to take responsibility for ourselves and how we're going to be in this relationship, and we aren't going to allow that to be anymore. It's jarring. Like people are like, what, what do you mean? What do you mean you're going to be different now? And so it's okay to even say that to people. Like, I know that this is different and I know this isn't how it's been in the past. So I'm sure this is confusing for you, or it might even be really hard. But this is just, this is how it's going to go from now on for me. This is how I'm going to be from now on. Just making it very clear for people. I feel like we're taught to be all ambiguous and tiptoey and, like,
Yes.
are you okay with that? Like, peek around the door. But what if I'm okay with it? I just want you to know that this is what works for me so that we can have clear, honest, open communication. Like, do I love myself to be clear with you about what's going to work for me? I can't be in a relationship if I'm not willing to love myself enough to be honest about what I need and what I want.
Now, what about the other side of that?
Mm-hmm.
And that is when you have an individual who is not asking for what they want and need, feels that their job is to make the other person happy, whether that's a
Uh,
relationship or in a work environment, that my entire existence is to make my boss or my coworkers happy, and
mhm.
I'm left, worn out and not fed, right? So
I'm
how do you
totally depleted. I'm completely
yeah,
resentful. Yeah, you're talking about me in a previous life. That is who I
okay,
was. That's who I
okay.
was. It's like I was text messaging with this woman that I just happened to become Facebook friends with, but I was like, you look so familiar. She's like, I used to work in the school district where your kids went to school. Anyway, we started like kind of just chatting back and forth. And I was like, yeah, you know me. I was the totally exhausted, overgiving mom that was on every board and like made little bags of goodies for my kids' teachers that looked like reindeer at Christmas time. Like I stayed up till 2 in the morning cutting watermelon. Also, what was that for? Right. So that's
Mhm.
always my question is when people are doing that, what is it you're looking for? Like, what are you hoping to fulfill? What is the need you are trying to meet within yourself by getting that boss's approval, by having your kids say, oh, you're the best mom, but you're like getting walked all over the place and, you don't have no boundaries for yourself, no limits. Even, limits are a good thing. Um, so, what is it that's needing to be that you're looking for that person to give you by you over serving, over giving, pretending? Essentially, you're performing, you're putting on a performance. And well, I was. And yes, I love my kids, but that doesn't mean I have to stay up till 2 in the morning, doing odd things to prove, like I'm trying to prove myself in some way. That's what I was doing, trying to prove so that I get that other person's approval in order to be liked, loved, or approved of. That's what typical codependent behaviors are.
So again, coming from the male perspective of wanting to fix things,
Mhm.
um, how can we
Mm,
communicate and support someone who, and especially as a parent, we run into
mhm,
this as a supervisor in a managerial situation. When you have somebody that it's obvious they are not taking care of themselves,
Mm-hmm.
or not doing the things that they could be doing to make their lives so much better, so much
Mm-hmm.
healthier, so much happier.
Mm-hmm.
How do you have that conversation to help them love themselves, respect themselves, the way you know they're a great worker or they're a wonderful child or a wonderful, a partner? How do you communicate that?
Well, this is a very interesting point because my question is, what in you is uncomfortable or yeah, what part of you is uncomfortable with what's going on in that other person that makes you feel the need to jump in, right? Like I wonder what happens if I can just like, yeah, maybe I feel my kids are making a bad decision, but is it how do I know that? How do I know that what I have to say or what I think is better than what they need to experience? Like, what happens if I just allow their experience? I have to look inside of me first to say, why am I not comfortable? Why do I feel the need to fix this? Why can't I just accept where they are? What am I making it mean about me? If like we're typically projecting something's going to happen, right? They're going to fail. They're going to fail out of college. They're going to marry the wrong person. There's a part of me that's uncomfortable with that
Yeah.
possibility. And what part of me, or what am I trying to fix in myself by fixing them? What am I even trying to prove about myself if I'm trying to fix them? So to answer your question, I think I would lead with a question to a person like that, even if it's a coworker, like I want to know, like you're talking about with negotiation, like what does that person actually want? Because if I'm offering a bunch of things and they don't even want it and they're not even interested, I'm putting a lot of energy into something that is just like, it's like pouring into a cup that has a hole in the bottom of it. They're just like, no, I don't want that. I don't even need that. I don't even know what you're talking about. Maybe to them, it's not even a problem.
That's true. To them, it may not be a problem,
Hmm.
right? Um, yeah. I want to get back to your point about being vulnerable because I'm
Mm,
getting all kinds of questions here on Facebook.
yes.
Yeah, this is a good time to dip into that pool. Being vulnerable, not everyone is or comfortable doing that. And also,
Mm-mm.
they ask, how can you tell if someone is sensitive and vulnerable to you
Mm,
in a relationship or a conversation or
mm-hmm.
negotiation?
Mm-hmm.
How can you tell if someone's being vulnerable?
It's very hard to tell. We never know. We can never know with certainty, right? That someone is being vulnerable or even willing to be vulnerable. But if that's what I want is a close relationship, then I have to be willing to be the person that's going to do that and to lead with that. And I know from experience that when we lead with it, it really opens the door for the other person to have the same kind of response. So if I'm not coming into the conversation and accusing you and blaming you for everything that's wrong. But if I'm coming in and saying, wow, like it feels like we've really been on the outs lately, and I'm afraid that that means this is going to be the end of the relationship, or I'm afraid it means that things might be over between us, or I'm afraid we're never going to get back to anything good. I mean, how does that sound, even to the audience? How does that sound versus, well, things just never work between us. We're never gonna, you're always so defensive. You're always accusing me. You're always doing. Whereas if I can come in with how I'm feeling, just from a very centered point of view, with a willingness to expose myself, if I'm going in and I'm guarded, I'm pretty sure that's what I'm going to get back. And I'm not saying the person will magically be vulnerable immediately. But if I know that me risking exposing myself and being vulnerable could result in something different, it's going to be different than what's been happening if that's not what I've been doing already. So that act in and of itself changes the dynamic and the energy of the relationship. So a willingness for me to be different first, instead of waiting for the other person to be what makes the change or who makes the choice, or like just always kind of abdicating our authority and like, well, once he does that, then once she says, once he goes, like, well, who's actually in charge then? If I'm saying I want to be in charge of my life, then how do I want to be in relationship? I have to be willing to show up as that person. So it is hard risking it. It's a huge risk being vulnerable, but am I willing to risk it in order to have what I want? So there's something that I ask my clients all the time whenever they're at this place where they're like trying to become someone new, right? Trying to become something new, trying to instill a new habit. Is this choice that I'm about to make getting me closer to or further from what I want? If I react and blow up in this situation, is that getting me closer to the relationship I want or further from it? If I'm willing to risk just even one vulnerable sentence, is that getting me closer to or further from? Like you said, it's not just a magical, you know, it's work, but is it worth it?
I know for myself and many of the folks who join us, every week, I try to live my life by the understanding that the reason I'm here is to learn how to receive love and give love at a greater and greater level every day,
Mhm.
at a deeper and deeper level. And also, when I get into these situations, the first question I ask is, what would love do? Right?
Mm,
What would result in love coming into the forefront and being at its highest level for both individuals,
mm,
because both individuals deserve the same love and respect as a soul, as a beautiful, unique, divine being. Um, with respecting that, what would love do? In this situation. What are your thoughts about that? And also being true to yourself and to making sure you're taking care of yourself. But I guess maybe that reflects loving ourselves.
absolutely. That's what I was going to say. Like for me, the ultimate expression of love is acceptance of myself and the other person. I mean, you are who you are, and I am who I am. And I cannot share anything, like I said before, intimate with you. I cannot be at the deepest level of sharing if I cannot accept you for who you are, but if I'm not willing to share myself from that space also. So I do believe, yes, that's a beautiful question. First of all, that's such a lovely question. What would love do? And what is love for you? How do you want to express that love to yourself and to the other person in the relationship? And I think what happens is people judge themselves and say, well, again, going back to the same storytelling and the same projection and the same thoughts about what the other person's feelings are going to be hurt or they're not going to be happy. like that might be true, but we can be with them in a loving, supportive way when they're disappointed. Like, it's not my job to make sure you're not disappointed, but I can still say when you are, like, I know this is probably really hard. That's what I think love would do. I don't think love would lie. I don't think love would lie. I think that being honest, even in a moment, especially in the moment where you feel like it's going to be hardest for the other person to hear, like, I'm sorry, I really don't want to go to your family party with you. And the other person is like, what? Oh my gosh, I'm devastated. And then you get to support them in that, right? That's love to me. Like, now I'm honest and you're honest, and we can both be honest without it being the other person's fault. And I can say, I know it stinks. I'm sorry. Like, is there anything you want to say about it? Or what else do you need me to know about that? Or, how can I support you here? But it wouldn't be me lying. I don't think that would be love. If I'm going to the party just because I should, and then I'm like kind of crappy and short and distant when I'm there, like, now I'm also quote unquote lying, right? Like, I'm being dishonest and I'm kind of manipulating unconsciously and unintentionally, but I'm manipulating the relationship because I want you to respond to me in a certain way, right? So I'm willing to give up what's important to me, and I'm willing to be dishonest so that I don't have to be in this uncomfortable place of you being upset or disappointed. So I think love is always honest. I think love is always accepting. And I think love is always supportive of what the person is choosing to do for themselves. Can I give you an example of this? A short story.
Yeah, please.
So Walt right now is like toying with this idea of not eating meat anymore. He's like, I know, you probably think I'm crazy. Like, I went from eating meat. And I was like, actually, I don't. What I want in this relationship is not for us to be doing the same thing because that's what the other person's doing. What I want is for me to be able, or for me to, and this is what I'm choosing to do, I'm choosing to just support you because that's what's right for you. That's what's in your own best interest. And if that's what you're telling me, great, perfect. Do it. You're not asking me to do it either, because you're like, well, what's right for me is supposed to be right for you too. No, there's none of that. It's the support of what's in the best interest of ourselves and the other person. So going back to your negotiation, right? Like the win and the win. How can we be that supportive person in relationship with ourselves and in relationship with other people, and realizing that it's going to look different than we maybe previously thought it would.
Let's carry that into this next question, and that is, what do you do when you keep getting blamed for the other person's unhappiness, or you keep getting blamed for everything that goes wrong?
Yeah. And that is very, very common. And so, again, this required for me a lot of figuring out why I was willing to accept that. First of all, like, what in me was like, okay with that? That's a good question to start with. And then just, I like to pause and then not like, when someone's making an attacking statement, to just be like, hmm, don't leave, don't run away, just, hmm, I wonder what makes you say that. Or even, like, let's say someone's like, you never do the dishes. Are you saying I never do the dishes? It's just that simple. Without, it's simple, but it's not easy. It's hard not to react, right? So there's a difference between responding and reacting. And when we're reacting, we're coming from that very emotional place again of like the trigger. right? Like, yes, I do. I do the dishes every week. What are you talking about? Like that's the initial reaction. But if I can respond and just like kind of, if I'm confident, if I know, oh, I don't think that's true. Um, hmm, hmm. And just clarifying very calmly, is that what you're saying? Typically, it just at least diffuses the blame, or I should say, the energy, of what's happening in the moment. It diffuses the energy of what's happening in the moment so that you're not going into this huge argumentative state that isn't going to get anyone anywhere. You're not going to prove your point. They're not going to listen. You're not going to listen. We're just now like butting heads. Um, and if it's something that happens continually, it's absolutely something that eventually needs to be addressed. I mean, it can't, because it's inaccurate. No one's ever relationships, everyone likes to say relationships are 50-50. And I believe that relationships are always 100%. What's happening in the relationship is always 100% my responsibility. I'm responsible for what's happening in my life 100% of the time. And if that's the case, where am I giving my power away to this person? Where am I abdicating my authority? Where am I letting this person be in control of me or in charge of me in a way that isn't working, right? Like, why am I afraid to address the issue at all? And that takes, I mean, we're talking steps and steps down the road here, right? But yeah, blame is hard, especially when it's coming at you. I like to really just kind of calmly reflect back to the person, clarify, and then, yeah, I like to ask, I wonder what makes you think that.
I think it points to the importance for us if we really do want to have a life that is more joyful, more full of love, more, self-realizing, and it's important it's important to take the time to realize we have to put on the big boy or the big girl pants because we are 100% responsible for what we want, what we do, and how we react versus how we choose to act
Mm-hmm.
in a situation. And it can be the simplest thing. I always use this example. When my two boys were young and we would go on a long car trip. My younger son, he's 4 years younger than my older son, he was a master at pushing the buttons. I don't know where he learned this, but he was a master at pushing the buttons. And, one particular ride, he started pushing my older son's buttons, and my older son exploded and started screaming at him and, shaking him. And, we had to pull the car over and say, what's going on here? And my older son said, Dad, he's making me angry. And I said, first of all, nobody can really make you angry. Being angry is a choice you're making, to be. I said, now, I also understand that your little brother is a master at pushing your buttons. So this is important that you understand that he knows, he knows that when he presses those buttons, you're going to get angry, and then you're the one I'm going to be angry with, or you're the one I'm going to have to deal with, right? So do you see how you're giving your power away to him
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
by reacting and being angry? And do you see how important it is that we own that choice of who and what we are going to be in this moment, right?
As scary as it seems to say that it's all on us, like, oh my gosh, this is in my life and I'm like, I can't blame anyone else for it. As scary as that seems, to people, owning that we actually have a choice and admitting that it is my responsibility ultimately puts me in the position of most control, right? Like
Yes,
I now,
yes,
like I can do something about it then, right? Like if you're the reason I'm unhappy, I'm basically saying there's nothing I can do about that. Oh God, I'm always just going to be unhappy. So you're always going to be that way and I'm always going to hate it and wah, wah, wah. But if I'm saying you do this, I'm unhappy about it. Where's my choice? Because I always have a choice.
choice.
In every single situation in my life, I always have a choice. Every moment is a choice. That's my personal opinion. And if that's the case, then that also puts me in the position to do something about it, to make it different, to make the change, to have it be what I want. So it's embracing, like as scary as it seems, embracing that part. So I can have what I want. I can't have it if I'm leaving it up to you. Because, like that person said, how do I know if anyone's being vulnerable? You don't. But I can't leave my desire or my ability to have an intimate, vulnerable relationship with someone. I can't leave that in your hands. I have to choose for myself. Now, how they respond, then I'll have a choice there too. Well, is that the response I was looking for? Is that what I want? Is that how I want this relationship to be moving forward? What am I going to do about it? Am I going to have a conversation with them about how they responded? But it's always a choice and it's always up to me. Then I'm in the driver's seat of my life.
Yeah, and the victim state of consciousness is something that is so prevalent today. It's so used to manipulate us, and it's
Mm-hmm.
so reinforced, in every TV show, movie,
Mm,
in the media, it's something that really concerns me. You look at the divorce statistics, you know, um, in our parents' generation, right, or grandparents' generation, it was a very different percentage, right, of
mm-hmm.
marriages that end in divorce, right? But the generations that have been raised on watching sitcom TVs and soap operas and reading Cosmo and reading, GQ and all of the magazines that tell you what the perfect relationship should be, or what car you should have, or how much money you should make, or what house you should live in, this, that, the reality TV shows that are out there. We've been so bombarded with illusionary standards
Mm-hmm.
of what a good relationship is or what a good life is.
Mm-hmm.
We really need to stop and clear that out of our system,
Mm-hmm.
and we need a new set of glasses, first of all, and we need tools to understand that. And I think you're probably going to cover this in your workshop this
Mm-hmm.
Saturday. We are the creators of our reality, therefore, we are the creators of our world.
Mm-hmm.
We create our happiness, we create our health, we create our financial well-being, right? We create our relationships. It starts with us, and the responsibility begins with us. But it's so easy today to just give up and say, "Hey, you're not perfect. I'm out of here. You're
Yeah.
not the you're not the person I married, or you're not the person I, met on our first date, or you're not the employee I expected, or the slave I expected," right? You know, uh,
Mm-hmm.
there's so much of that. So,
I agree 1,000% with this, and that then we do go into that kind of victim mentality of like, oh, woe is me, you know?
right.
Um, However, you said something super important. It made me write down these words. I am the author of my own life, right? So I'm the author of my relationship too. Like no one else gets to say, you're talking about the Hallmark movies and the sitcoms and the blah blah blah. You know, they're not. first of all, it's not true. Can we just, can we admit that those aren't true? Like that's TV, that's produced. But no one gets to say what's good for me except for me. And no one gets to say if our relationship is good or not except for us. We are the people that decide that, right? But like you said, I'm also the person that accepts my or creates my relationship with money, my relationship with my health, my relationship with my body. Like how am I creating that right now? How have I created what is currently in my life? Yes, this is a lot what we're going to do on Saturday. How have I created what happened thus far? And what do I need to do for it to be different? Like, what's my blueprint moving forward? If it's something new I'm saying I want, what's preventing me from having that? A lot of unconscious stories, a lot of old subconscious beliefs and patterns there that I'm still somehow giving life to, you know? And then what do I need to do? What do I need to shift in order to move in the direction of the thing that I'm saying I want?
Great. This is great. It's not easy, but you're dropping some very, very powerful wisdom and tools here tonight. Could you talk? You're getting me really interested here about what's going to happen Saturday. Can you can you talk a little bit about what can people expect if they go?
Yeah, so it's going to be more of a workshop. This is not like a conference, where you're just like
Yeah,
falling
yeah.
asleep in your chair. It's a small, very intimate setting. The maximum number of people that will be there will be 20 people. But you will leave with a blueprint for your life as well, for the life that you want to create, as well as an understanding of what's keeping you stuck. So it will be a lot about, diving in to the resistance that we have to change. Like, well, we say we don't have any, right? Like, yes, I totally want to do this, but if you wanted to do it, you'd be doing it, right? Like one of my principles is we always get what we want. So what must I be wanting if this is what I have now, right? And I don't think very many people know that. No one's like, oh, yeah. People are like, I want a different car. I want a bigger house. I want to raise it. I want a better relationship with my spouse. But there's a way that we're benefiting from having what we have now. It's unconscious, it's subconscious. So we're going to dive into that, right? Like the programs, the beliefs, how we start believing certain things, where those things stem from. And then how do we kind of like eradicate that, right? And how do we bring that out into the light so that then we can choose differently? Because we have to realize, we have to recognize, what are we choosing for now? I can't choose something different until I know what I'm choosing now. I can't do anything different until I understand why I'm doing what I'm doing now.
I don't understand, why do I want that something different?
Mm,
And
wonderful
then,
point.
yeah, and then who do I become? A typical coaching question, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Who will you become once you have what it is that you are striving to achieve?
Exactly.
Um,
And where's the dissonance between
yes.
who you want to be and who you are now? Like, where's that tug of war happening? That keeps you kind of just over here instead of like going. Hmm. Hmm.
What time is that event, Meg?
It is 9 to 4
S-
CST on Saturday.
Okay, 9 to 4 Central Time. Okay,
Yes, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. There's a lunch in the middle also. Lunch
okay.
provided.
Okay. So this is going to be a physical event.
Yes, this is live. This is in person. Um,
Okay.
and I want to know from anyone listening, would you be interested if this was an online event? If this event was something that we hosted in the future online, would that be valuable to you? Would you be interested?
Okay. And I'm assuming this is going to be in the Chicago area.
Yes, it is in downtown Chicago.
Okay.
Mhm.
So again, for folks who want more information and you are going to be in downtown Chicago this weekend,
Mhm.
it's https://events.kimgilloray, GUILLORY /have hyphen it hyphen all. You're seeing it on the screen right now. You can take a picture with your phone. Also, this is on Meg's Facebook page. If you go to her
Yes.
Facebook page, Meg Lamm, Lamm.
Yeah.
Great. Well,
Do you want me to put that in the chat? I can drop my link
yeah.
if
Would
you
you?
want.
Would you?
Hmm.
Would you
Hmm.
put? Actually, would you put both? Would you put?
Yep. I'll put the event link and the my Facebook link in the chat. Let me go grab those.
Still got some more questions coming in here.
Yes, please.
Does one ever admit to the other person that you are projecting your needs onto them? Is that
Yes,
yes?
absolutely.
Yes. I mean
Absolutely.
that requires those self-awareness that you are in fact doing that. So that's not going to magically happen from the relationship fairy, right? So
Not going to be like, "Psh, here you go."
yeah.
I mean, the fact that you're aware that it happens is a wonderful first step. I mean, most people aren't even willing to admit that that's what they're doing. But yes, when you can admit that to someone, for me, that creates even more trust. For me, like that level of honesty that you're willing to be that honest with me. Wow. I trust you even more. I trust you more if you tell me my pants look bad on me than if you tell me they look great. You know what I'm saying?
Wait a minute now. Wait a minute. You're getting into the sacred area of questions
I
not to
am.
respond to.
Yes, that's very true. Honey, how do
Wow.
you feel in those pants? I don't know if you
Oh,
don't feel
great,
comfortable.
great, great answer. Thank you so much for that.
Say
Yeah.
always, if it's not a heck yes, my rule is if it's not a heck yes, then it's a no, because then I won't be comfortable. That is my standard. If it's not a heck yes, it's not a heck yes, it's a no. All right. Facebook page. But yes, I do believe that um being willing to admit that you're hoping that there's like an expectation almost, like you're hoping to get something from them in return. This is very honest and this is very mature. But if you can admit, like, well, I was hoping you were going to, right? Oh, if I did that, I was thinking you would. Now we're getting very honest, even with our own inner dialogue about what's happening in our own mind and like the unspoken agreements that we haven't even shared with our spouse or our kids or our partner, um that what we're thinking is going to happen, the expectation that's inside going on internally. And yeah, I think when we can do that, it gives us a real understanding and insight into the other person's world. So this is where I say it's risky. I mean, you have to be willing to take the risk to expose yourself, knowing that it will create something different. And are you willing to do that in order to have the kind of relationship that you want instead of just staying in something that it's not bad, like this is fine the way it is. I should be happy. People have it way worse than me. But if you think it could be more fulfilling, are you willing to risk the rejection, so to speak, in order to have what you ultimately want?
You talked a little bit about these programs, these patterns. Um, how how does someone know that their subconscious patterns have jumped in and are influencing their choices? How do
Mm-hmm.
you know when that's happening? Or
Mm-hmm.
is there a way of knowing?
Yes, and that's a wonderful question. And that is like, what am I responding to? It's almost like when you have a familiar response, when you find yourself saying the same thing over and over again, even when you find yourself in an emotional loop that is typical, I say I mean, that's something that you've been practicing for a long time, right? And is it appropriate here? Like, is it actually an appropriate response to what's going on? Right. And so I think for me, there's also a sensation that happens in the body. Again, it takes a great deal of presence and awareness to know when that's happening, but recognizing like, I'm shaking, I'm sweating, I'm right. Like we have now gone into something. There is a physiological response happening in the body that likely has just been, again, triggered. It's not necessarily, yes, what happened has triggered that response, but does it actually, if I want to change that, how can I put a stick in the spoke of the tire, right? Like, how can I stop this from happening again? How can I be the person that steps out of the circle? If this is what we're doing over and over and over again, how can I be the person that goes this way instead of steps back into that cycle? So for me, it's when anything that's like, oh, this again, like when I can recognize that, like many people have a phrase, like, this is so stupid, or I feel so stupid, or like, God, just I'm too much. I know, like, I'm such a pain in the ass. I'm such a burden. Something that constantly repeats in different areas of your life, because how we do one thing is how we do everything, but something that you find yourself saying, a phrase that's familiar that you say in most situations where things aren't going the way you want, is an indication that that's something that is very deeply ingrained in your being. And when things are happening at the subconscious level, we don't need to think about it, right? So when you don't have to think about the response that you're having, you're like, oh, and then you can wonder, you can get curious. Where is that coming from? Where is that coming from? Because it's likely not as relevant as you think it is to what's going on in the present moment.
Yeah, that importance of taking a breath,
Mm-hmm.
stopping, taking a breath, and asking those questions because questions stop,
Mm-hmm.
they stop that wheel that's gone in motion and that's getting out of control. Stopping and asking the question stops the pattern. it takes us out of the reactive into the contemplative.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where we then can make sense of things and be honest, or at least, explore the causes of what's going on. And that is so important, to live a fulfilling life, to be self-aware, you know, the what was on the placard above, the ancient Greek temples was first know thyself,
Mm-hmm.
right? Before anything else, first know thyself before you
Mm-hmm.
look to know the secrets of the universe and everything
Yes.
else.
Mm-hmm.
Know yourself, be aware of who you are, where you are, what you are right now,
Mm-hmm.
is so important. And again, coaching is such a valuable tool and experience for people to learn about themselves, why they do the things they do, the questions they need to ask themselves before moving forward in their lives, and
Mm-hmm.
then the patterns that are going on, and
Mm-hmm.
then how to make those changes to get what you want and understand why you want them, how they're
Yes.
going to affect you, how they're
Mm-hmm.
going to affect everybody around you. Because,
Mm-hmm.
again, in a family or a work situation, it's a relationship with many people involved. And,
Absolutely. And
those,
understanding our resistance to it too, because that's a lot at the unconscious level. And a lot of why we don't have what we say that we want is what we fear will happen if we do make the change. And helping people come into that awareness is so powerful for them, and watching them like have these light bulb moments of realizing why they haven't moved in that direction yet. It's so powerful for them that it's exciting for me. But yeah, I agree.
very cool. I'm gonna put my Facebook information and my YouTube information in the chat, because folks who are watching, who maybe not watched this podcast before, if you want to be able to watch this again, maybe you came in late, or you want to watch it again and take notes about the wisdom that is being dropped here by Meg. Um, I'm putting in the chat here my Facebook page. All of these interviews stay there for at least a couple of weeks, and then I will move them over to my YouTube channel, and you're seeing the addresses there. Once again, I want to put up the slide one more time about this Saturday. For folks who are in the Chicago area, this Saturday, um, the workshop with Meg and Kim, and more information on that, https://events.kimguillory/have-it-all. You're going to see it on the Facebook page recording anyway, but just dropping that in one more time to you. Um,
I also just
Meg,
put a link in the chat, which is a very simple guide to reframing conflict. So it's kind of just a way to look at conflicts that might make it more approachable. Something like people think conversations, bringing up hard topics means conflict or means fight, but it's so essential to having a satisfying and fulfilling relationship that I always encourage it.
well, Meg, this has been amazing. I'm very, very grateful you took the time to be with us tonight. I'm very, very grateful for everyone who has joined us, folks who joined us here on Zoom, folks who have joined us and are still there on Facebook. Really appreciate you. Um, Again, this is what this show is about. There is no financial arrangement with this show.
Oh.
I retired a long time ago and decided that I was going to devote my life to helping make people's lives better. That's what this show is about. I do this because I love and care about every single one of you that are out there. Um, I care about you as if you were my own family. And the best that I can do is because I am a voracious researcher and collector of information, but more importantly, I've been blessed with access to some of the most amazing people in the world, just like Meg, whose lives are dedicated to the same thing, helping you have a better life. So I hope you'll listen again to what we talked about tonight, take some notes, do some real deep introspection and some conversations in the mirror about, who are you? What is it that you're here for? What is it you want? What will make you happier, healthier, freer? What's the best thing for you, your family, your coworkers, the world? Um, it's important we ask these questions because there is a great deal of trouble and darkness and
Mm,
conflict in the world right now, and someone is not going to solve it.
mhm,
We need to be the solution first in our own lives. And when we do
mm.
that, when we have those hard conversations, when we start thinking about win-win, when we start respecting ourselves and respecting others, loving ourselves and loving others, that's how the world changes and gets better, right? And
Agreed.
so
1,000% agreed. Hmm.
yeah, yeah. So again, thank you all for being here. Love you all, care about you, grateful that you're here. Meg, so grateful you took the time. I wish you all the success this Saturday. And
Thank you.
folks, please do respond because I sure would like to see your event, Meg, available remotely through Zoom or whatever it is you choose to do, because I think it's so valuable.
Yeah.
Yeah. So thanks again for being here with us. Meg, thank you for doing what you do and being who you are. Um, those things are so valuable, so precious. Your light is so important right now. So
Mm.
please keep shining it bright, keep doing what you're doing. Grateful that you're there. And I look forward to hearing about, your workshop successes and the things that you're doing and the people you're helping. And
Yes.
yeah,
Thank you.
and
Thank you so much for
yes.
having me. I never imagined that this is what I'd be doing with my life. And it is just about a purpose and having a purpose and fulfilling a purpose that isn't just about me, but like making the planet a better place to be. Because if I'm sharing the planet, right? Like if we're all sharing the planet with people that know how to be in relationship with each other, that know how to negotiate, that know how to communicate, that know themselves, are willing to know themselves enough to change what needs to be changed to make the world a better place. I mean, that's what drives me.
Well, you are doing what needs to be done to do that. And you are
Mm.
delivering. You are showing up and delivering. And I personally appreciate it. And everyone here that joined us tonight, the hundreds of people who are going to be watching this over the next few days, appreciate it as well. So thank you. Thank you, Walt, for sharing Meg with us tonight and for your great questions. Um, uh, very much appreciated. And so, have a great night. Have a great week. Good luck next Saturday, Meg. And
Thank you.
everyone out there, love you, care about you. Have a great night. Have a great week. Have a great life. And hopefully, we'll see you at our next podcast, and you'll know where to find us. And we'll see you then. So take good care.